It's go time.
Welcome to Quick Kicks here on Third Down Gamble, with your host Don Charbin and special guest Jeff Krever, CFL Senior Director, Player and Game Statistics.
Jeff, it's great to have you back on the podcast. One of the most important people in the CFL, because you're always tracking not only the stats of day to day, but you're also charting careers too, because of all those numbers mean something to these players when they're done.
Yeah, thanks, Don. It's always fun to talk to you. I think this has become an annual tradition, and certainly one that I always look forward to. A lot of great conversation, and listening to some of your other guests. I'm pretty honored to be on here.
It's really about the guests in my mind. I bring people on to the show so that they can tell their story. It's never about me. I want to know what you want to talk about. One of the things that going into any football season, who's on the cusp of a record, what teams could be doing something special. Let's start with that, because the season is days away.
I mean, I think you have to start with Bo Levi Mitchell. It feels like he's been sort of the face, or one of the several faces of this league for a very long time now. Enters the season with 110 wins, which is good for 7th all time already. Well known as one of the winningest quarterbacks in CFL history, and success has kind of followed him everywhere he's gone, including to Hamilton. Last year, had his team close to playing in another Grey Cup for him. Just missed out. Just looking at that all-time wins list, 7th all-time, but by the end of the year, he could be as high as 4th, realistically, within striking distance of Ricky Ray, Tracy Ham, and then Henry Burris. He's 8 back of Henry Burris for 4th all-time. So a lot of winning for Bo Levi Mitchell, and certainly Ticats fans hope that he's going to have a really good shot at moving into the top 5, and realistically as high as 4th this year. And then just kind of contrasting that with a guy like Davis Alexander, who all he does is win so far in his career. You talk about Bo Levi Mitchell and the legacy that he's had, and another player that similarly had an incredible start to his career back when he was with the Stampeders. But Davis Alexander, 11-0 to start his career, a streak that he carries into 2026 because it's regular season starts. It excludes the Grey Cup. Already the longest streak to start a career in CFL history. The previous was Danny McManus at 8-0. So Davis Alexander looking to get off to another quick start for Montreal. And how far can that streak go? Like, what are we talking here? Because you get to a point where you start thinking, you look in the record book, hey, which of these records is unbreakable? You start to think about unbreakable records. There's a certain point, if Davis Alexander keeps doing it, where one day people are going to look at that record and they're going to go, holy geez, he did that? Like a Matt Dunnigan situation, right? With the single game passing yards record. Really cool to watch out of Montreal there. He's also just a very exciting player, the way that he plays. He's got all the talent in the world and a lot of fun to watch. So on the quarterback side, those are a couple of big ones. Cody Fajardo and Vernon Adams Jr. are sitting on 49 wins. So close to halfway to 100, which is big. Zach Collaros, Trevor Harris, both with 40,000 passing yards within their sights this season, another major milestone. Veteran receiver and the active leader in the CFL, Eugene Lewis, enters the year with 47 receiving touchdowns, so 3 away from 50. Another guy that's had an incredible career. I hate to make predictions, but I think it's a pretty safe bet that Willie Jefferson, looking like a future Hall of Famer, but 77 career sacks, so 3 away from 80. He is the active leader entering 2026. And then also, just as incredibly, his production and pass knockdowns, 94 of them in his career, which is more than almost everybody, and 6 away from 100. And for a defensive end, that is incredibly rare to see a defensive end put up that kind of production. You're going to be looking at a player with 80 plus sacks and 80 plus knockdowns. I think that is just the type of body of work that we've never seen before. People use the term unicorn, and I would say statistically there's a pretty strong case for that. Mario Alford wearing new colors this year, 4 career kickoff return touchdowns. The all-time record is 5, held by Harvey Wiley. So kickoff returns, a pretty exciting play when you see it. one of the most difficult ways to score in the CFL, but Alfred has been one of the all-time great returners. And then on the list of all-time kick return touchdowns, so we're talking total between missed field goal, kickoff, and punt returns, Janarian Grant comes into the season tied for third overall with Brandon Banks at 13. And then Bashar Livingston is second at 15. So second place within reach for Janarian Grant. And again, I don't like to make predictions, but I feel pretty confident in saying that nobody's touching Gizmo's record, which is 31. He's almost halfway there, but he's got a long way to go. 31 touchdowns in Gizmo Williams' career, which is pretty unbelievable.
Henry Williams was a phenom when he played for Edmonton. It was too bad in a way that he wound up in the States for a while, because Edmonton could have used him through those years as well, I'm sure. But he was something special. And one thing that it speaks to, you got to be great, but you got to be durable. You don't get these stats, especially when you're talking about quarterbacks that are throwing for 40,000 yards. You think of Anthony Calvillo and where he finished. You've got to be on the field and available to make this happen.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And you look across our league, we've had a lot of quarterbacks that have been doing this for a long time, and a lot of players across our league that have been doing this for a long time. And even when we go down our list of player participation, and we recognize on our social account at CFL Stats players that are playing in their 100th game or 150th game and so on. And we've even got a few this year that are playing that are close to playing their 250th career game. Rene Paredes and Sean White and Stanley Bryant are all well within reach of 250, and a couple that are going for 200 in Trevor Harris and Patrick Neufeld. So it is unbelievable when you see some of the careers that these guys have made for themselves and the longevity that they've had.
And you mentioned Willie Jefferson, who last year did have a bit of a down year, but he's up there in that stratosphere where probably no other defensive end has been before. When you think about him, I always think of Ricky Henderson, the guy that could steal bases and make contact with the ball and get hits. And there's Willie Jefferson, sort of a sack master and a knockdown master. That's really tough. And you mentioned for a defensive end, it's different that he's up there, because typically it's a DB that's the one knocking down the most balls. But there's Willie just plowing away.
Yeah, he's a unique player, and he totally changes that defense. He's the type of player that opposing offenses have to game plan around. And it'll be interesting to see, because they've made some changes. They've had a busy offseason. Jake Serezna comes in and joins them on that defensive line. And Serezna is another player that has had a pretty decorated career so far. I wonder if that takes a little bit of pressure off Jefferson and maybe frees him up a little bit more. Who knows? But a lot of talent on that Winnipeg line. And I have a feeling Jefferson still gets it done. Certainly a unique player, as you mentioned. He's going to have a chance to really put an exclamation point on the remarkable career that he's had and chase some all-time numbers.
Not to put you on the spot, but I just do wonder if Jackson Jeffcoat had never left the Blue Bombers, what would Willie's stats be today?
That's true. They were an incredible duo. I would love to pull some numbers on that for you, because certainly projecting Jeffcoat's career, he put up some big numbers.
Well, and he was a phenom on the other side, so that you could not focus on Willie. So one of them was going to get through. Which one? Take your poison.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you, as we come into this season, I know there's been rule changes and everything like that, but that is more of you accounting for it as opposed to anything else. What are you having to do now in the preseason? Because obviously stats teams have to be aware of some changes, especially as we saw Calgary, Saskatchewan in the preseason game, where the first punt that rolled through the end zone got put up on the scoreboard. And you guys probably have to be on top of that.
Yeah, we are on top of it. It was a major point of emphasis with our stats crews this year. Our audit team is also overseeing, so we have a lot of communication with our stats crews on game day. And certainly there was communication around that single point, and our stats crew handled it perfectly, just as we had gone through in training, and that we were able to confirm with them verbally that it was handled correctly. I'm sure around the league there's going to be an adjustment period, just like with any new rule. There is some nuance involved, but sure enough, we were tested with it on the first drive of preseason. There goes a punt out of bounds through the end zone, which was pretty cool. Certainly, we have 56 statisticians that work for the CFL across the league. And these are our game day statisticians I'm talking about specifically. So the ones that are in the press box, watching and recording every play as it happens. And then our offsite remote audit process, which also verifies all of that. So a big part of what we do in the off season is working closely with those statisticians and training them and ensuring that the highest possible standards are met. Yeah, those rule changes, anytime there's a rule change, that's something that gets reviewed and practiced a fair amount, and something that certainly impacts how we would approach a game day.
When you're working with these stats teams in the off season, are you doing like we're doing today, a Zoom call, or are you actually making a trip to go into a conference room and say, okay, these are the types of things we have to watch for? Well, how does that all play out?
Yeah, it's a mix. Sometimes we'll have in-person sessions. Most of them are done remotely. It's different virtual sessions based on specialized roles. And then we also have all hands on deck sessions to go through things like rule changes and discuss how they'll affect everybody that's involved. A lot of time is spent virtually on Zoom because a lot of what we show is video, a different technique on tackles and going through different variations and definitions of what is a tackle? Because as you know, we don't have tackle assists or half tackles in our league. So same with sacks, we don't have half sacks. So deciding who's going to get credit on a sack or a tackle is a very important thing and can affect the player's career. And in many cases, it's not necessarily cut and dried. So what's important to us in those situations is that we set a consistent standard so that what is a tackle in Calgary for a player is also a tackle in Winnipeg or Regina or elsewhere. A big part of what we do is it certainly lends itself to us being able to go remote and have these intensive video sessions. And sometimes we'll go through 10, 15 tackles or a whole bunch of different knockdowns and say, okay, this is what was entered at the time. We ended up changing it, or maybe we didn't change it and we kept it the same and we agreed with the call because of X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth. And then that continues into the season with regular weekly feedback and video review. It's nice when we can get together in person. The best training and support that we can also give in person is during live games when we can see how the statisticians interact with one another. We can give coaching and best practices. And also, if they have any questions for us, we're there to be able to help in person, and preseason especially. And some of those games early in the season are when we have an opportunity to work really closely in person with those statisticians.
Typically for a football game, as we've seen with a couple of big weekends in the preseason here, how many people are actually in the booth?
Yeah, five. Our standard crew size is 5, and they have varying roles. And that's actually very similar to how an NFL stats crew and a college stats crew works. But we'll have somebody at the computer as a primary inputter, a couple of people calling. One person is writing everything down as a backup and support, and then one person is also keeping an eye on the game and providing support. But also they're on a call with our remote audit team to go through anything that's in question. If the crew needs a second set of eyes or support on something as it's unfolding, or if the audit team needs something changed, that's that person's responsibility. It would be to be live monitoring and working with our remote team, which is really a check, right, to what the crew in stadium is seeing. You have a second set of eyes seeing the game entirely independently. So there's no confirmation bias or anything like that. We are coming to our own conclusions and making sure that our set of data matches the set of data that the crew is coming up with. And when there's something that is different, we can review it very closely and decide what was the correct outcome.
Do they have any access other than maybe the stadium scoreboard to a replay that help them along?
Most of them have PVRs in the stadium, and they also have access to a stream on laptops and the ability to look at slow motion replay and all 24 and things like that, which can be helpful. But their focus is mostly on staying in real time and letting the audit team support them with anything that is kind of on the fence or questionable or subjective and open to interpretation.
Now, what would be the most obvious thing that you would probably have to, in most games, look at and say, okay, there's something up here, we have to fix that? Is that typically tackles, or is there some other element of the game?
Yeah, it's almost always tackles, pass knockdowns, and sacks. And that's the thing, I think, that doesn't get discussed a lot, but there are many things in our game that are entirely open to interpretation. A 20-yard gain is a 20-yard gain. You cannot argue that fact. It is black and it is white. Like it goes from one line of scrimmage to the next line of scrimmage. There are certain things that, depending on who is watching and what their vantage point is, and a ton of other factors, one player may deserve 51% of the credit of a tackle, and another player may deserve 49%. And people can have wildly varying views on what that might look like. That's where, for us, it's very important to set a consistent standard, to look at different examples and different types of plays and tackles and find precedent, and to make sure that all of those statisticians who are in that position to call tackles has a very clear understanding of why one player deserves a tackle over the other. And we also feel that our players have a good understanding of how that works as well. They do have the ability to request a stat change. It is not very often they get overturned, because it has to be abundantly clear and obvious that a change needs to be made. But similar to any major sport, we will look at a tackle or a knockdown or a sack, any play that is subjective in nature, if a player or a coach is requesting a change.
Do they have a window in which they have to do this by? Because stats are coming out for the following week. You can't really dawdle too long.
Yep, 72 hours. That's their window. And that's important to us, because we want to be transparent to fans and media, to our clubs. We don't want the old stats to be changed. The accuracy is number one, and transparency is up there as well. It's important to have a process that is open and transparent. And we feel that our players and coaches certainly feel that that's the case.
We've talked a lot about tackles, and the simplest definition is the ball carrier is brought to ground, but there's more ways to interpret a tackle. For instance, what if a player just willingly runs out of bounds? How does that come up on a stat sheet?
Yeah, so we go through with our stats crews what the definition of a tackle is by the rule. It is the player who is most responsible, at the discretion of the statistician, for terminating the play, essentially. If a receiver is making a catch along the sideline and his momentum brings him out of bounds, there's not going to be a tackle credit on that play, because the receiver would have gone out of bounds whether or not there was a player there. It was his own momentum and his effort to make the catch that brought him out of bounds. If, in the discretion of the statistician, the player was forced out of bounds by a defender, that's when they will credit the defender with the tackle. And in some cases, there doesn't even have to be a forceful impact or anything like that. If a player's presence or actions forces another player to run out, he can get credit for a tackle in that case. And that does happen from time to time.
So basically the runner looks up and says, I don't want to take this guy on. I'm going out of bounds. And that person will get credit for the tackle.
Yeah, that's right. Same thing now when a quarterback slides, the defender that causes him to give himself up will be credited with a tackle.
So this is a lot of gray area that you go through, because sometimes a quarterback will slide and there might be two people standing there. And then you have to sort of discuss amongst yourselves who out there has actually forced this play and made the tackle.
Yeah, there are a lot of possibilities on every play. And for the players, it's really important. It means a lot for them. And for fans and coaches, they're interested in that too. We're talking about records being broken and career accomplishments and all CFL nods and all of those things. So yeah, it is important. We look at every tackle, every single aspect of every play gets looked at. That's part of our process. We do it in real time, and then we'll do it post game as well. All of these things are given the care that they deserve for the players and the fans and the clubs.
One thing that the stats crew has always done so well, and that's get authenticity into the game. Because without you, we don't have a clue what happened.
Yeah, and that's what we talk to our statisticians about often. And I think that's what excites them the most, is that they get to be a really important part of our league. They're the ones that are on the ground, essentially. They are on the front line. They are in the press box and are the primary source of our data. And there are other steps involved afterwards. And there is a lengthy review process and quality control and all of those things. But they get to be a part of our great league and making history. When you tell the story of our league, I like to think a lot of that is through stats and through players' accomplishments and trends and milestones. And those are what generate conversations. Those are what end up on headlines and on the front page of TSN and all over the place, really. So for us, that's what drives us, is being a part of something really big. And I know our statisticians as well, just knowing that they get to play that role in it. They're incredible. Like, they're so passionate. They're here because they love the CFL and they care about it, and they really want to contribute to our league. And to me, that's a big part of their success.
The other aspect of this that probably doesn't get discussed too much with you, because it's just a given, but CFL Fantasy depends solely on what you guys provide.
Yeah, it does. And our ability to be accurate and in real time is a big part of that. Nobody wants to check the next day for their fantasy scores. People are watching the game. They got their phones. They want to see, how's their player doing? I picked this quarterback. We're only halfway through the first quarter. Does he have 10 points already? I want to know. That's kind of the way we consume sports now. And I think it's pretty cool, but certainly stats driven.
I'm Derek Taylor, the voice of the Bombers on 680 CJOB, and I listen to the Third Down Gamble podcast.
As we record, you are in Saskatoon. You're going to be at Griffith Stadium to work with the crew there with the Saskatchewan Roughriders versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Talk me through what you have to do on that game day. What time do you have to arrive at Griffiths? What do you have to do with your crew? And how long of a day will it be?
Yeah, so it's an off-site venue. On the tech side, a few extra technological things, installations, different things like that we have to oversee and ensure that everything's running correctly. We have a score bot that captures the time on every play for our statisticians. So arriving the day before and testing that out and making sure that the integration with the stat software works. Game day, arriving several hours before kickoff. The crew will be there within a couple hours of kickoff. We'll just go through our game day checklist, ensure that everything is running correctly. Go through anything that our crew needs to watch out for in the game. Anything that we've seen from the first preseason game last week that may not have been covered during training, or just anything that needs to be re-emphasized. Look out for this play. Keep an eye out for that. We'll go through all of those things. But it is a pretty full day for sure. It starts afternoon game, so it starts pretty early.
You piqued my interest. What is a score bot? How does that work? Who operates it?
It's a device that plugs into the score operator's piece there. What it does is it can actually connect to our stat software so that whatever is happening on the scoreboard is in sync with our stat software, and in turn goes downstream. So you're able to see what the clock is doing in real time, what the score is in real time, all of those things.
How long have you had that?
Since 2023.
Wow. So that's a relatively new piece of technology.
Yeah. It actually came on with Genius Sports.
Oh, that's awesome. What would you do before? Would you have somebody calling out the clock time, or what would you do?
Yeah. Every play we would enter a clock time manually. Somebody on the crew would call it out. That obviously is a bit of we don't do that anymore, but yeah, no, it's helped them out for sure.
I mean, technologically, this is just amazing, because for years, I imagine you probably wished you had something like this, and now it's availing to you. And now you got to go to Griffith Stadium and you got to make sure that thing works.
Well, and as we record more and more data, which we'll continue to do in the future, it really just allows us to focus on expanding what that looks like. In the new stat system, we started recording left, right, and middle on passing plays. Same thing for rushing plays. There's also a greater urgency with the new system in terms of timeliness, where you're entering scoring plays and flags immediately as they happen. Whereas in the past, you would enter all the details on a play and then hit enter. And as a fan, you would receive all the details of a play at once. Now you're seeing them all in real time as they happen. So some pretty big changes there. Having a device like that, those are some of the technological advances that can help us continue to add more data and continue to improve our offering.
Typically, you're an auditor throughout any weekend, but because you're going to be on site at a stadium, are you going to be basically off the call and you're going to just focus on that game, and Steve or somebody else is going to take care of the rest?
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Preseason, obviously we have more games going on. auditing will be done in stadium as well as remote. But yeah, my focus would be with the stats crew.
So is that a big change for you? I mean, how many times in a season do you actually get to do that?
Fairly often. I am based out of Ontario, so I'm at most Toronto and Hamilton games, and I'll get to Montreal and Ottawa a decent amount, and then the odd time out west. But we also have our colleagues Steve Daniel and Doug Page, who are based out west. They'll get to some games out here as well.
Do you enjoy getting these opportunities to go out to an on-site and actually work with the people with whom you're auditing the rest of the time? Is it a nice sort of refresher to get everybody talking to each other?
Yeah, and I think it's critical. I think it's really important to get FaceTime with our statisticians, to get to know them really well and understand the things that concern them, their pain points, and to help them get better. It's a big part of being proactive and really continuing to improve our accuracy and our process. Yeah, I enjoy it very much. I'm a very process-oriented person. There's a lot that I can learn by being in the press box with our statisticians, by being hands-on with them. The odd time I will be the one sitting in the chair inputting a game if somebody's away, and that gives me a good chance to see the system and the process through the eyes of somebody else who has to deal with it on a regular basis. And to me, knowing and understanding every person's role, I mean, that was the first thing I set out to do when I got hired here. I had a deep and long conversation with every stats crew chief that we had across the board. And then very early in the process, I made sure to become an expert on everything that they have to do on every single game. To me, being at those games and seeing how they operate and getting to spend time with them, I think it offers a lot of validity to what we're doing, and it also makes a big difference when we're going through off season training and talking about best practices and things like that.
There's something that you touched upon, and I want to get back to it, and that was your ability now to relay stats in different critical areas. And one of the things you mentioned quickly was targets for passing. Was it left, center, or right? And if we go back to last summer and all the discussion about moving the goalposts, one of the things that came up were those numbers that you guys had been able to chart around the goal line where balls were being thrown. And that really informed some decisions.
Shout out to Steve Daniel. Everybody knows Steve. He's been our statistician here for a very long time. And he is our analytics guy, and he is the number one analytics guy that I've known and that's around. And he's looking at everything. Some of the game day data that he goes through. This is the stuff that informs our rules committee. It's a big part of our process, and he's a data guy. He loves it, and we're charting every single play, direction, depth, all of those things to inform any rule changes or even any discussion or thought around rule changes.
Now, when you talk about left, center, and right, is left typically outside the hash on one side, center being within the hashes, and then right being outside the hash on the other side?
Yeah, that's typically the standard that we have set.
For you personally, you've had a few years going through this process. Just for you personally, where is your growth? Where's your mind compared to where you were a few years ago when you first signed on?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I kind of mentioned before that I'm process oriented, and it's really important to me to build something that is consistent and long lasting. And I think over the long haul, my focus has been on process as a means to be as accurate as we can possibly be for the long term, right? So talking about accuracy, transparency, operating really like the best professional sports league in the world. I am a stats nerd. I'm not just a CFL guy. I love the CFL. I watch so many other sports as well. I live for this stuff. And when I watch other sports and I compare what they're doing with what we're doing, I really do think that we're up there with anybody. That our process, our results, when you talk about stats being collected in real time, if you sit there and watch our game tracker and see the stats that are produced as they happen, they are accurate, they are fast, they are reliable. That's where we've wanted to get to. And I know we had our challenges, especially with the launch of the new system in 2023, and we understand that.
She shouldn't be beaten up over that anymore because you guys have come so far from those early days of growing pains.
But it meant a lot to us because we know what we owe to the CFL fans and media and players, clubs, and all of those things. When you talk about personally and what I've taken from this, it really is that shared goal between me and Steve Daniel, Doug Page, Harvey Mafuda, who's our coordinator on our team, as well as the 56 other statisticians that we work closely with. That's what I take the most out of this is all of us, there's no ego involved. The way that we work as a team across the country in 9 different CFL cities to produce stats that are consistently accurate, that are transparent for fans and the players, really that set a consistent standard, like we talked about before, where a tackle in one place is a tackle in another place. And to me, that's been the most rewarding thing. And what I take from this job the most is being a part of that and always asking, no matter what, always asking, how can we do this better? Because that's where I want to keep taking it along with the rest of our great team. And it's rewarding.
What type of person, you mentioned the 56 other people that are involved in this process. What type of person do you typically find that wants to do this job? Are they chartered accountants? Are they computer analysts?
Yeah, I don't think there's any clear pattern. What they all have in common is they love the CFL and they want to be part of the league. And obviously they're very skilled. It's not a job for everybody. I think it's more the skill set, though. Typically, they work well under pressure because it is a very fast-paced environment. They don't get discouraged if things start to get hectic, or they aren't bothered by the noise, because press boxes can get a little bit loud at times, and we have a very tight process, but sometimes you will get a few people talking at once, especially when a play is open to interpretation. So, when you talk about, are they accountants, are they this, that, or that, I think the skill set is generally pretty similar across the board, and the passion for the league is generally pretty similar across the board. And I think it's really just comes back to good under pressure, really detail oriented, and they care a lot.
Somebody coming into the job for the first time there, how long does it take for anyone to get up to speed on what is happening inside there?
It can take years. Honestly, I've seen it take years. And the challenge is you're getting 10 home games a year, right? If you include preseason. So maybe a playoff game or a Grey Cup, and then 6 months off, basically. These roles are challenging. They really are. And the people that are in them, they have a lot of dedication. They're constantly working on their craft outside of a game, going through clips, and our inputters are practicing in the stat software and different things like that. There has to be a lot of dedication involved, and we certainly don't have somebody jump into a game without any meaningful experience or preparation. We want somebody that's very confident in what they're doing.
Basically, somebody that maybe has worked at the junior college level, at the university level first, maybe had some games under their belt there, then moving up to the pro.
Yeah, fairly often that's the case. Sometimes they'll if they start with us immediately, they'll be shadowing somebody else first, and they'll get a chance to watch and kind of see how it's done. We've always got room for certainly for future statisticians and new talent. We're always open to that. Good prospects are always welcome.
As I brought out right at the beginning, we're on the cusp of the 2026 season. For you personally, as you go into a season, regardless of what's happening around it, what is your prime focus? And are you pumped right now? Are you scared right now? What goes through your mind?
I'm pumped. I will tell you, I've said it before. Grey Cup to me feels like Christmas morning when I wake up on the day of a Grey Cup. It's like I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm excited. I'm giddy. It's awesome. It's just a special day for our league. Regular season kickoff is a close second. The start of the playoffs is up there too. Like, these are moments that I'm a football fan. I'm a CFL fan. I have been my whole life. I love our players. I love our fans. I love the excitement around it. We talked about some of the milestones and stuff earlier, but there are so many great statistical storylines that we're keeping an eye on this year too. Talking about Brady Oliveira, he's trying to rush for 1,000 yards for a 5th straight season. How many players have come along that have done that. He's just an incredibly exciting talent. Does it in multiple ways, catches the ball, great on the ground. Nathan Rourke, I mean, the Lions offense last year, they were 50 yards per game, almost more than the next closest team. I tweeted out, and we have our stats at CFL Stats on Twitter, but I tweeted out, it's like the CFL, it's like Canada's greatest show on turf, right? Like it's unbelievable what that offense did. Watching Nathan Rourke and what he's doing, especially not as a Canadian quarterback too, but just in general, he's got a chance to be one of the all-time greats. Justin Rankin, the excitement of a player that he had a 90-yard touchdown run last year. He led the CFL in big play rushes with 12 of them. He was the first player since Marcus Thigpen in 2018 with 2 rushes of 70-plus yards. And it's just incredible big play ability. We talked about the emergence of Davis Alexander. So you go into a new season now, the possibilities are just endless. Somebody new, some name that we're not talking about right now, is going to make his mark this year and is going to do something pretty spectacular that's going to make us all excited, and we'll be talking about it. And it's that uncertainty and the excitement of a new season and a fresh page, and not really knowing what's going to happen and who's going to get named for themselves, and then who's going to capture the Grey Cup. We're talking about Nathan Rourke. That's a guy that hasn't won a Grey Cup yet. Is it his time this year? That's going to be one of the major storylines. I can't think of a sport or a league that I'd rather watch. I just think it's awesome.
You think of people that haven't made it to the show. Let's talk about Vernon Adams Jr. He hasn't been there. The Stampeders are on a big losing streak in the playoffs. Davis Alexander, undefeated, lost his only Grey Cup. There's a lot of folk that want to be in the show.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, because, hey, Trevor Harris, like, that was a career-defining win for him.
Very true.
I think he's got a Hall of Fame resume to begin with, but to go out and win a Grey Cup, he's always been viewed as one of the most accurate passers the CFL has always seen. Certainly statistically he is, but to go out and do what he did last year was a big deal for him.
Well, especially given that he almost started the Grey Cup, that they beat Calgary in overtime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like you said, Vernon Adams Jr., one of the most exciting players in our game. Great dual threat quarterback. Calgary had a great defense last year. Dedrick Mills, a lot of outstanding talent on that team. Is this his year? You talked about Davis Alexander going undefeated to get to the Grey Cup. Is this going to be his year? Ryan Dinwiddie in Ottawa. The Red Blacks are looking to get back to being a great team again. Hopefully it shows through this conversation, but I really do love this time of year and talking about all the awesome storylines. I like all of the content that comes out on CFL.ca and TSN and some of the top 50 lists and all the debate over those types of things. Like, I just think they're so much fun. And when that ball gets kicked off for the first regular season game, I think a lot of people are going to be watching. It's the start of what's going to be another great season.
Oh, there's going to be so many storylines, and secretly, just between you and me, a Davis Alexander versus Nathan Rourke Grey Cup would be something special.
That would be exciting. Yeah, that would be
an aerial circus.
For sure. Yeah, and then Nathan Rourke, both of them do it with their legs too. I mean, Rourke had one of the best rushing seasons for a quarterback. Talking about just efficiency, unbelievable.
That BC Lion offense is a juggernaut, and what do they average? About 8.5 yards per first down or something silly?
Yeah, leading the league by a wide margin in almost every category last year. Was just phenomenal.
They get some defense. Watch out. They may be an and-O team. So anyway, Jeff, thank you so much. Jeff Krever, where can people find and follow you on the socials?
I'm at Jeff Krever on Twitter. Not a big guy on my own socials, but our team is really excited about bringing you all of the latest stats, insights and storylines and milestones, records, all of those things. We're tweeting almost daily and will be even more throughout the season. So follow us on Twitter at CFL Stats. Follow our main account on Twitter at CFL. Our team and what they continue to bring with the research and insight that goes into that. Just seeing it every day, that was a priority for me, was to find a way to get that out there more. And I think Twitter's been a great opportunity to do that.
There's so many times when I go to check out CFL stats and find out, oh my goodness, really? Only 2 more and they get this? It's an amazing resource. Keep it up. It's doing a fantastic job. I absolutely love it.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Okay, Jeff, have a great night and have fun at Griffith Stadium.
I can't wait. It's going to be a great game. I had a chance to do a site visit today. Beautiful venue. Certainly a unique one. My first time in Saskatoon as well. So I'm really enjoying the city so far.
Third Down Gamble uses the expert resources of the Canadian Football League and 3 Down Nation. For up-to-date, insightful statistics and analysis, please visit cfl.ca and 3downnation.com. The CFL on CBC theme music is used with written permission from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Thank you for listening to our show. Third Down Gamble is hosted on Podbean. Follow us on Twitter, where our handle is @ThirdDownGamble. Join us again next time. The Third Down Gamble podcast. Audio worth watching.